I thought I had won the lottery of love. When I married him, everyone said the same thing. You're so lucky. And I believed it. He was kind, attentive, predictable in the best possible way. The kind of man who remembered small details, who asked about my day and actually listened to the answer. We didn't fight. We didn't raise our voices. Our life was calm, almost too calm. Our mornings followed a routine that felt safe. Coffee together, quiet conversations, a shared silence that never felt uncomfortable. At night, we watched movies, talked about plans, laughed at things that didn't matter much. It wasn't a passionate movie love, it was stability. And after everything I had lived before, stability felt like happiness. I trusted him completely. There were no secrets between us. At least, that's what I thought. After 3 years of marriage, we decided to move. Nothing dramatic, just a bigger house, a quieter neighborhood, a place that felt more like a forever home. He seemed excited, maybe even more than I was. He handled most of the paperwork, insisted on taking care of the details. I saw that as responsibility, commitment. The house was old, but charming. Wooden floors, high ceilings, a basement we joked about turning into a storage space or maybe a small studio one day. He laughed when I mentioned the basement, saying, "We'll deal with that later." I didn't think anything of it. The first weeks were busy, boxes everywhere, furniture out of place, life in transition. And during that time, I noticed something small, but strange. Every time I mentioned organizing the basement, his mood shifted. It was subtle, a pause, a change in tone. He always found a reason to postpone it. Too tired, too busy, not now, later. At first, I ignored it. After all, people have quirks, and I trusted my husband. What I didn't know was that the basement wasn't just full of boxes. It was full of a past he had buried and a truth that would change everything I thought I knew about the man I married. At first, I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Everyone has things they don't like to deal with, old houses especially, dust, spiders, forgotten boxes. The basement could wait. But the more I tried to ignore it, the more present it became. It wasn't just that he avoided the subject, it was how he did it. Every time I casually mentioned the basement, his body reacted before his words did. His shoulders stiffened, his smile came a second too late, and then he would change the subject, always smoothly, always calmly, too calmly. One night while we were having dinner, I asked again, nothing serious, just a comment about finally organizing everything that weekend. His fork stopped mid-air. It was just for a second, maybe less, but I saw it. He smiled right after, said it wasn't urgent, that we had all the time in the world. His voice was steady, but his eyes didn't meet mine. That was when curiosity stopped being innocent. I started paying attention to things I had never questioned before. The way he always locked the basement door, the fact that he kept the only key on his keychain, how he went down there alone sometimes, always saying he needed to check something. I told myself I was overthinking, until one afternoon I came home earlier than usual. The house was silent, too silent. I called his name, no answer. Then I heard it, a sound coming from the basement. Not loud, not clear, just movement. I stood there, frozen, listening. My heart started beating faster for no logical reason. I told myself it was stupid, that it was probably him moving boxes or fixing something. But when I opened the basement door, the light was already on, and he wasn't there. The air felt different down there, colder, heavier, like I had stepped into a place that wasn't meant to be entered without permission. I took a few steps down, calling his name again. Nothing. That's when I noticed it. Behind old furniture, tucked into the farthest corner of the basement, there was a box. Not a moving box, not storage. A small, dark box. Clean, no dust, as if someone touched it often. It had no label, no markings, just a lock. My stomach tightened. I remember thinking, if it's locked, it's because someone doesn't want it opened. And yet, my hand was already reaching for it, because in that moment, I understood something I couldn't undo. Whatever was inside that box was the reason my husband never wanted me down there, and once curiosity crosses that line, there's no going back. I never liked the basement of that house. From the very first day, something about it made me uncomfortable. Not fear exactly, just a strange feeling, as if the air down there was heavier. Still, I ignored it. Old houses always have their odd corners. For months, life felt normal. Our marriage was calm. He was attentive, affectionate, always present. No late nights, no secrecy. To anyone watching, I had married the perfect man. That's why I never questioned anything. The day everything changed seemed completely ordinary. He left early for work, and I decided to finally clean the basement. I went down the stairs with a flashlight, that familiar discomfort tightening in my chest. The space was cold and dim, boxes everywhere, old furniture covered in sheets, dust thick enough to tell stories of things long forgotten. As I moved things around, something caught my attention. Behind an old shelf, partially hidden, there was a metal box. Not cardboard, metal, rusted, no label. My instinct was to leave it alone, but curiosity won. I dragged the shelf aside. The noise echoed through the basement. The box looked like it hadn't been touched in years. It was locked. My heart started racing. Why would someone hide a locked box in their own basement? I forced the lock open. The snap of metal sounded too loud, too final. Inside were envelopes, old documents, photographs, and a small object wrapped in dark cloth. I picked up the photos first. A woman I had never seen. Young, tired eyes. Some photos showed her smiling, others showed fear. Dates written on the back. Years ago, long before me. Then I saw it. One photo showed her pregnant. My hands began to shake. I opened the documents next. Names, records, legal papers. One name appeared again and again. His. And then something worse. Proof of a past he had never mentioned. A legal bond I didn't know existed. My chest tightened. With trembling hands, I unwrapped the object in the cloth. A child's necklace. Old, worn, too small to belong to an adult. Engraved on it was a name I had never heard before, but one I knew would change everything. At that exact moment, I heard the front door slam upstairs. He was home. I stayed frozen on the basement floor, surrounded by secrets I was never meant to find. And for the first time since I got married, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know the man I lived with, and whatever I had just uncovered was only the beginning. I didn't move. I could hear him upstairs, keys on the counter, footsteps, the familiar sounds of someone coming home, except nothing felt familiar anymore. I shoved everything back into the box as fast as I could. Photos, papers, the necklace. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I locked the box again and pushed it behind the shelf, exactly where I had found it. By the time I climbed the stairs, my heart was pounding in my ears. He was in the kitchen. He smiled when he saw me, the same smile I had trusted for years. "Hey," he said, "everything okay?" I nodded, too quickly. "Just cleaning." He kissed my forehead. I flinched without meaning to. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the necklace, the small name engraved on it, a child's name, a child he had never told me about. The next morning, I started searching. Old emails, archived files, social media profiles buried in time. It didn't take long. I found her, the woman from the photos. Her page hadn't been updated in years, but one detail stopped me cold. In one of the old posts, someone had commented, "Happy birthday to the strongest little boy I know." Attached was a blurry photo. A child, the same age the dates suggested, the same name engraved on the necklace. My stomach turned. He didn't just have a past, he had a son. That evening, I watched him carefully. The way he talked, the way he avoided certain topics, the way his phone never left his pocket. Every small detail now felt like a lie I had missed. At dinner, I asked casually, "Did you ever want kids?" He froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Someday." I swallowed hard. Because somewhere out there, that someday already existed, and he had built a life with me on top of a truth he buried in the basement. I didn't confront him, not yet. I needed to know how deep this went, and I had a feeling the box was only the first layer. I decided not to accuse him. Not yet. Instead, I started asking questions that sounded harmless, casual, almost innocent. "Do you ever miss where you lived before we met? Do you still talk to people from your old life?" He answered, but always carefully, like someone walking through a room full of invisible wires. One night, while we were watching TV, I said it. "Have you ever lost someone important?" He didn't respond right away. The silence stretched too long. Finally, he said, "Why are you asking that?" I shrugged. "Just thinking." He nodded, but his jaw tightened. That was when I knew. The secret wasn't just something that happened to him, it was something he was actively hiding. A few days later, I did something I never thought I would do. I went back to the basement. This time, I searched deeper, behind old paint cans, inside sealed folders, under boxes labeled tools and taxes. And then I found it. A legal document. Folded, yellowed, forgotten. My hands felt numb as I read the words. Custody agreement. His name, her name, and the child's name listed as his biological son. There was even a signature at the bottom. His. The date was from years before we met. I sat on the cold floor, unable to breathe. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't something he forgot to mention. This was a life he had erased. That night when he came home, I didn't pretend anymore. I placed the document on the table between us. "I found this," I said quietly. He stared at the paper, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked afraid. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could say a single word, I asked the only question that mattered. Does he know I exist? That night, I didn't sleep. I sat alone in the living room, the box open on the table, staring at proof that my marriage wasn't built on the truth I believed in. The next morning, I confronted him. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I simply placed the documents in front of him and asked, "How long were you planning to hide this from me?" His face changed instantly. Not anger, not denial. Fear. He admitted everything. Before we met, before our perfect life, he had another family, a child he claimed to have lost contact with. A past he thought he had buried. He said he wasn't living a double life anymore, but he had never truly closed that chapter, and the box in the basement wasn't forgotten. It was hidden. I realized then that the biggest betrayal wasn't the secret itself, it was the years of silence, the choice to let me build a life on half-truths. I didn't leave that day, but something between us broke quietly and permanently. Some marriages end with shouting, others end with clarity, and that truth, once uncovered, can never be put back in a box. If this story caught your attention, like the video, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and don't miss the next videos and chapters, because the next story begins where trust ends.